Hey everybody, this is Bill Seaver with Micro Explosion Media in Nashville, Tennessee, and I am excited to have with me today Mark Schaefer from Knoxville, Tennessee. We're only 3 hours away, I think,
Yeah, that's right. We're so close. We've
but
only met one time.
yes, we've talked a few times. We have tweeted each other and had coffee once. I regret that I wasn't able to make it to Social Slam 2012 in Knoxville just recently. I definitely want to be there, and I hear it was an excellent event.
Epic.
Epic event. That's
This epic event.
I've heard good things about it. I've heard very good
Yeah.
things about it.
It's really a lot of fun. A
Well,
lot of fun.
and so part of my my interest in wanting to talk to you is wide and varied, and so I'm a little selfish in this that I thought I could sucker you into a conversation that would be meaningful to me.
It's kind of like me, Bill. I'm wide and varied.
So I thought, okay,
I'm trying. I'm
if
trying
I
to work on that actually.
if I can lure you into a conversation and we just tape it and talk about social media in this world of social media marketing, and record it, do the interview, then maybe other people will benefit from it. But this is I'm confessing my selfishness here. I think right off the
Just
bat.
reel me in, man. Reel me.
Yes. Okay. So,
I'll,
but
I'll apologize. I've already apologized to you. I'll apologize to all your viewers that I've lost my voice. So I'm going to do my best. But this is not how I usually sound.
well, you usually sound well. You sound as if you've been giving a lot of interviews lately.
Yeah, someone told me today I sound rugged, so I'll take that.
Rugged is good. I think rugged is good. So, most recently, you wrote the book Return on Influence, which can be found at Amazon and Barnes and Noble and other various whoever else sells books these days.
Mhm.
But you wrote Return on Influence, returnoninfluence.com is where people can find out more about that. So I have a lot of directions I guess I could go with this, but let me find out first because I know you're an author, you are a professor, you're a consultant. So rather than asking you, because I've just named off a couple things that you do, here's my question: How do you get paid for? How do you get paid to live?
Well, I think I counted. I think I've got seven revenue streams.
Huh?
Let's see if I can remember them
Okay.
all.
All right.
For the first time in September, last September, about 6 months ago, I actually got more money from teaching than anything else.
Oh wow.
So that was really quite interesting. I teach at Rutgers University,
Hmm.
and it's a really great setup. I'm so fortunate, Bill, because I teach graduate classes, and I don't have to grade papers. I don't have to do tests. I just go, I show up. They pay my expenses to come up to New Jersey, and I'll teach two, three, four classes over a couple of days, and it's wonderful because these people are kind of usually mid-level managers going back to grad school, and so they want to be there. They have an urgency to learn. So teaching has become increasingly important, and that's something that I love to do. So I've got teaching. Of course, I have consulting, and my consulting business. Most of my customers are in New York and New Jersey. It's just kind of how it worked out. But I've
Right.
got an important customer in Atlanta and a great customer in Boston and one in Denver. So consulting. Okay, now okay, that's two. Three is my books. I'm starting to get a pretty decent income from the books, and I
Okay.
really honestly it surprised me.
Hmm.
Because I self-published the first book, which is The Tao of Twitter, and that has become a sensation. It's a legitimate bestseller,
It's a good.
and
It's a good book. I've read it. It's very good.
yeah, and I self-published that, but of course it's available on Kindle and Amazon, and no marketing, no advertising. The thing just took off like a rocket,
Hmm.
and now McGraw Hill bought the rights to that, and I'll be coming out
Oh
with a
wow.
second edition of that in the fall. Of course, Return on Influence. That just came out in March, and I just got my first revenue check, the first check for return on influence. But of course, they also give you an advance to pay you for your time to write. So, that was a pretty good source of income last year too, because it took me quite a while, several months to write the book.
But
All
it
right, so
sounds like you sold through your advance though, which is most authors don't do. So,
well, I had a deal. My advance was not an advance.
oh, okay.
I got paid to write the book. So my
Okay.
contract is I had money, I got paid for my time basically to write the book. And
Wow.
then I'm getting a percent of the sales from book number one. I don't have to pay anything back.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I just get a flat percentage from here on out. And I think after the first after the first 1,000 books, I think it's 1,000. The percentage goes up, and the book sold 5,000 copies in the first 30 days. So it's really taking off very
Wow.
well. Okay, so where are we? We got teaching, we got consulting, we got books, we got speaking. I do speaking engagements, and that's
Right.
that's been increasing as my reputation goes up.
Sure.
I've got an instant consulting thing on my website where people can sign up and just buy an hour of my time. I have videos for sale on my website. It's called Social Media from Scratch. That's 6. So I think I'm missing one. If I think of it, I'll come back to it.
Well, you're very diversified, and what's interesting is what you've explained is you leveraging your influence for income, which I think is part of what some people feel like is the missing piece of social media is how do you do all this stuff and actually make it make money for you, whether you're one guy or you're a company of 3,000 employees. How do you actually make that work? And so even what I hear you saying, you're leveraging your influence for investment, for money, for to make an income. And I think that's pretty neat and pretty telling. And it feels to me like you really are living out, you're practicing what you preach, if you will.
Well, I mean, I think, I met with somebody today who's trying to make some things work in the social media field. But, really to be, successful, you've got to provide great content and be helpful and really not, it sounds weird, but you can't be so concentrated on the money where you're selling, and you seem desperate. So, I think the way I've done it, it's worked for me that, I've put a lot of time into my blog. I give everything I've got in my blog. And somebody called me up with a business opportunity one time, and they said, well, we want to create this exclusive site where you really give your secrets. And I said, I already give my secrets.
That's your marketing.
You could, when I have an idea or an insight, I write about it. I give it away freely. And so it's nice that, people now are, buying my book and coming to my speeches or my classes. And that's great. And you don't have to. I'll still be there on the blog, and there's lots of different ways that we can work together. I think it all kind of fits together.
Does it ever surprise you that people pay to get information that if they wanted to spend the time and energy, they could actually access for free? It still baffles me that people do that, but it's true, and it's an elusive. It feels like an elusive business model sometimes, but it's very real.
This is such a great question, Bill, because it's one of the things I actually tackled in my book, in the new book, because I looked at these models of influence, the traditional models of influence, and one of those is scarcity. If you control scarce resources, you can become powerful, and you can charge anything you want for them. And so I was struggling with this because the first half of the book compares what's different with power and influence in the offline world versus the online world. And I said, there is no scarcity in the online world. I mean,
Yeah.
if I create a video of how to do, a YouTube video for your business, and I want to charge $9.99 for this, someone the next day is going to be offering it for free.
Yep.
So Christopher Penn is someone I really admire. He's a consultant, author, blogger up in Boston, and I was
Great
so
podcast
fortunate.
too.
Yes. And I was so fortunate to interview him for my book. And he said, well, Mark, you're wrong. Scarcity is actually more powerful than ever, because he said, you're right. The content on the internet is like leaves falling from a tree. But if you're sick and you need a certain kind of leaf to get well, you'll pay anything for it. So I think we have this unprecedented opportunity to create a voice of authority and to resonate with people. I mean, I'm unique. I have unique business experiences. I have unique educational experiences, and I'm good at helping people solve problems. Could other people help? Yes. Could they do it for free? Maybe. But I think people know me and they trust me, and they're saying, and really it works that even people on my blog, they'll sign up for, one of my counseling sessions, and I'll say, oh, you're my friend. Come on, I'll do this. They said, no, I mean, look, believe me, I appreciate this. This is your time. And this is business. Business is business. I want to buy your time. So people are pretty respectful about that.
Yeah. So let's talk about return on influence. I know you've done a lot of interviews. You've talked about it a lot, but how do you explain the concept of the book to someone who is only familiar with the term ROI, meaning return on investment?
Yeah, well, that's great, because the thing, I think the danger, and I had mixed feelings actually about the title of the book. Because I am a numbers guy. I mean, I'm a numbers guy and I'm a metrics guy. And I didn't want anybody to think that I'm trying to fluff it up with some new metric called return on influence. It's not a metric. It's a concept. I mean, it's a clever title. I think it resonates with people. So I haven't had too much confusion. And honestly, the reviews of the book have been spectacular. I expected some pushback, to be honest with you. And the reviews have been very, very good. And even people who, hate clout or disagree with what's going on, after they read the book, I think if you keep an open mind, and I think it's a balanced book because it covers the problems, it covers the controversy. And from a personal standpoint, a sociological standpoint, I mean, I've got some issues with it too. So anyway, what was your question?
Well, return on investment compared to return on influence.
Right. So I mean, I think it's a great idea, a great question, because I'm not trying to propose a new metric. As a business owner, as a marketing professional, everything, you ought to be measuring all of your initiatives. You should be measuring everything and tie it somehow to your shareholder value or stakeholder value, as the case may be. Maybe it's directly, maybe it's indirectly. Maybe you're lucky enough that you can actually measure ROI. That's very, very difficult, especially for small businesses with limited resources. But undoubtedly, you can measure things. There's no excuse not to measure things, so that you have some indicator of, are you doing better this year than last year?
Right.
I mean, why wouldn't you do that? The whole. Let me get on my soapbox for a minute.
Okay.
I'm going to give you. I'll give you a preview of a blog post that I've got in my head, because every time I give a speech, someone says, well, how do we figure out the ROI of social media? And I'm exasperated. Because, first of all, if you're in marketing and you're willing to accept the crazy justifications for a billboard on a highway or advertising in a magazine where you throw something out there and you hope it works, why wouldn't you accept that there's value to social media? So that's point number one.
Right.
Point number two, we've got more data coming at us than ever.
Yeah.
All right. We don't have data coming at us from a billboard. We don't have data coming at us from an ad in a magazine. So now you're telling me you're questioning about the ability or the wisdom or the possibility of measuring value from social media. I don't get it. I don't get it. I think the problem is people don't have a strategy. If you have a strategy, you've got goals. If you've got goals, then you've got metrics. If you've got metrics, you look at all this data coming from you. Even if you've got Google Analytics, it's more powerful than I ever had as a marketer. It's more powerful than anything I had 10 years ago. And it's this beautiful data package coming at us for free.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can find metrics through the web that can tie to the behaviors and attitudes that you're trying to change as a marketer. There's no excuse not to measure. Now, is it going to strictly be ROI? That might be impossible. But absolutely, you can create measures that are indicators that you're making progress in your business.
So I think I've got two questions to sort of go with here on this. The first one would be, would you say then that it would be strategic for a company to be investing in the idea of influence? I mean, so I'm sort of taking the investment idea, the influence idea, but by doing social media well, are they in fact then investing in influence, which sort of comes back around to the original ROI?
I think it's inevitable, either as a person or as a company. I'll give you an example. I had this wonderful opportunity. I was in London 2 weeks ago, and I met with a big consulting firm over there. And so I did a workshop for them on this idea of social influence. And we created this leaderboard. We took the Twitter handles of a lot of people in their agency.
Right.
And then we showed them who were the top influencers. If you accept that clout or cred or peer index I think it's like a credit score. It's not a measure of everything, but it's an indicator of something. So here, according to cred in this case, here are your top influencers on the web. They looked at this list, and the guy, the president of the division, said, "I don't know any of these people." So the number 2 influencer on the list was an IT guy. I said, "Let me tell you about this IT guy. 2 years ago, he started reading my blog, started commenting. We tweeted back and forth. We got to know each other. We became friends. I clicked on his bio and said, what does this guy do? Oh, he works for this big global consulting firm in London. That's really cool." So to me, this IT guy was the face of the company.
Right.
This is the social media presence for this company, not the marketing guy, not the PR person, not the lady who's in customer service, this web developer.
Right.
So I said, when he found out I was coming to London, he said, "Oh, this is fantastic. Let me introduce you to our marketing people, and you can come in and do a webinar." I said, "The fact of the matter is, I'm here today because of this influencer that you don't know." And they were just kind of blown away. And they said, "Well, first of all, number one, you're right. This is the face of our company. We've got to get to know these people. We've got to learn from these people. And then we have to ask a very important question. Why aren't our sales and marketing people on this list?" So I think, Bill, to answer your question, it does tie together. It is inevitable that an effective social media presence for a person or a brand is an influential social media presence. And look, these measures aren't perfect, but as I say in the book, basically what they do is they measure one thing. Can you create content that moves through the internet in a way that creates a reaction? That's it. That's all it measures. But that is significant because think how many jobs today depend on your ability to do that. My job depends on it.
Yeah.
Your job depends on it. That is my reputation. I wouldn't be on this, great interview with you today if I had never written a blog
Yeah, you're
or if
right.
I wasn't effective on Twitter. We wouldn't even know each other.
Right.
So, I mean, my ability to create or aggregate content and get it to move in a way that gets attention, that is important. It's critically important.
So let's change gears then, because we're talking about influence and social media for businesses. I'm finding we're seeing sort of two groups of people who are active in social media. We have, I think, the people who have been in it for a while, and I think legitimately consider themselves advanced in some ways in social media. And then we have what I really feel like are the late adopters who are just now sort of starting to get in. They're finally realizing that social media is not a fad. It's not going away. The internet has shifted and changed. So I feel like a lot of conversations are geared toward that entry level beginner type person, which is great because they need to be there. But
Mhm.
how do you help those more advanced people who would say, I kind of know the Facebook deal, I know to create content and that sort of thing. Where are you pushing people to continue to advance their social media efforts?
Well, there are three areas, and by the way, it's a brilliant question, and it's something I've actually been thinking a lot about. And let me take a step back and,
Okay.
and, and almost kind of enhance your idea or your question a little bit,
Okay.
because the people who have been in social media for a long time don't necessarily have the skills to take it to the next level.
Hmm.
So even the people who are so-called, experts, okay, so they've ridden this wave because they came from customer service or they came from sales or they came from an agency. So what are the three skill sets that are really going to propel us into the future? Number one is HR, because the biggest obstacle in companies is not budget or strategy or people. It's the culture of the company. If you've got a big 150-year-old company that's just been broadcasting and advertising for decades, and now you've got to turn and churn and creak into this new world, that's an HR problem.
Yeah.
That's organizational development. That's change management. I mean, you need some big leadership there. You
Right.
need to make some hard decisions. And you look at Procter and Gamble last month laid off 1,500 marketing people.
Hmm.
Not because they don't need marketing people. They need a new kind of marketing people. I'm
Hmm.
working with one of my customers is, I think this is okay to say, Johnson and Johnson.
Okay.
And so, wonderful marketing company, some of the most important brands in the world. They gave a test to all their marketing people.
Hmm.
And they said, where are you in your digital marketing know-how and your social media marketing know-how? So instead of firing people like Procter and Gamble, they've got different levels. If you score from 1 to 4, you go into remedial education. Then once you get through that, if you score between 4 and 6, you go through like a mini MBA program. If you score above a 6, we're doing like these executive TED Talks about
Gotcha.
current topics in marketing, digital marketing, and social media. So I mean, it takes this visionary cultural change. So the second thing is statistics. Marketing today is all about math, which is one of the reasons why I'm so frustrated about this ROI question all the time, because it's just the people don't have the ability or the skill set to even ask the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you've got all this, and here's one of my biggest frustrations is this whole SEO thing. It's just fly by night, a lot of it. And I know I'm going to piss off a lot of people, and I'm taking a broad brushstroke here, but I've never met an SEO person where I could ask, what is the statistical probability that action that you took created, there's a 97% probability that that action that you took actually made that change, and it didn't occur to chance and chance alone. And they look at me with blank stares, like I am from Mars. And yet, it's caca. If you're just spending your money on people's guesswork. So analytics is the future. Analytics is data mining, big data analytics. If I were to hire a marketing person right now, it'd be a statistician. I can train them to appreciate the marketing concepts and see where I'm going to go. But you need someone to apply the right statistical tests so you can tease marketing insight and wisdom out of these numbers. All right, that is going to be competitive advantage. Then the third thing is content creators. So this could be journalists. It could be video people. I recently was on a panel with the dean of the journalism school at the University of Tennessee, and he said, we've had record enrollment. I said, where are all these people getting jobs? He said, alternative media. So there's this insatiable demand for content. And my undergrad degree was in journalism, and it served me very, very well. So I think content creators, statisticians, and HR are the three big disciplines that are going to take us into the future. Who has those skills? I mean, the people in the field right now that are pontificating, they're not even really talking about these topics like they should. A few are. So I think there's a whole new revolution just in the education, I think, to get us to the next level.
Yeah, that's great. I really feel like it's time for some new conversations. I think for those of us who have been in it for a while to start saying, okay, how do we push this? Where does it go next? And it's interesting that you led off with the culture and HR idea, because I've said for quite a while that the dirty little secret of social media is that it's actually going to change about everything within your company. And once it gets in there, it really can. If you're going to do it well, it may not change everything, but it can change a lot. Particularly if your culture needs a lot of work. And so it's interesting that you said that, because that's an idea I've had to think about myself.
But the culture has to come first. There's no such thing as a grassroots cultural change. The leaders at the top of the company who own the budget, who own the strategy, who articulate the vision, they've got to understand. They've got to buy into this. And if you see the companies that are moving ahead the fastest, it's the companies with the leaders who are saying, there's no choice. This is a perfect fit. It's a perfect reflection of our open, responsive, customer-centered culture anyway. Let's move.
Yeah.
If you're not, open and responsive and customer-centered, this is going to be agony.
Do you think we're going to see an influx of companies where social media is bubbling up from underneath, but there's leadership that's not willing to sort of let it break through? They don't have that vision that you're talking about. And social media has only gone so far as it can within the culture.
Well, of course that'll happen, but then what will happen is the people where it's bubbling up from, they'll leave.
Yeah.
I mean, because I also have a background in organizational development and change management, and so I know there has to be a leader, and the leader has to be the leader. It can't be people working in the mailroom can't be the leader. It can't be someone working in PR. Now, those people can be effective change agents. So they can educate, they can communicate, they can try to bring in outside resources to help to eventually get the culture there. But the leader has to set the tone.
Yeah.
And it can't just be lip service. They've got to be practicing this. They've got to be supporting this. They've got to be walking around asking questions to show that they're interested in this change that's happening. That is a big, big problem.
Yeah. Well, listen, I know we could talk for a long time, but I want to respect your time, and so I really appreciate you doing this. And I know people can go to businessgrow.com. That's your website.
Businesses.
Businesses Grow. I'm sorry.
Businesses Grow. Yeah, that's right.
Businessesgrow.com, and on Twitter, Mark W. Schaefer. And
Schaefer, the name nobody can spell. And it's funny because it's actually hilarious because I call my website Businesses Grow because nobody can spell Schaefer. And nobody can remember Businesses Grow either.
Yeah, I failed you on that, but
they all call it Business Grow, so don't worry about
Businesses Grow. Got it.
it.
Do you own Business Grow?
So some jerk does. He's trying to sell it to me for $10,000. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen. I hope you get that site. I hope you get that domain sometime. And listen, I hope you have a great weekend ahead. This is Friday. We're got a weekend. Rest your voice, and thanks for doing this. And I really appreciate the book. I will be reading it very soon, and hopefully we'll have another dialogue at some point. But I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Great questions, Bill. Thank you for having me.